Thank you.
So as you see these slides go by, these are treasures from the archives of the National Irish Library. So these are what I've been digging through for the last, well, since 2016. And these are his original writings, his letters to Yeats, his letters to Lady Gregory, a tour guide he made for Dublin, the original poster from the Abbey Theatre, his papers when he was sent to New Zealand for his own protection in the 20s. Just little treasures I thought might add to your enjoyment of this ancestral journey we're taking today. Any Nallys who've joined the call, that last house was the family manse in Mayo. So if you're getting any ancestral feelings, that's our old house. Card readers, for any card readers out there.
Great. Thank you so much, Aoife. That was a wonderful introduction to what we're going to be exploring today. So welcome, everyone. We're delighted to have you join us this afternoon, and happy International Women's Day. Before we get started, I just wanted to go through some housekeeping. So we will be recording this event for posting, so we can let other people enjoy it. If you do not want to be recorded, please feel free to turn on or off your camera accordingly. There will be a question and answer time at the end as well. And if you would like to put it in the chat, we can pull the questions from there. Or if you'd like to answer it yourself, you can use the reaction icon. There's a little raised hand that's down at the bottom of your screen. You can just click on that and you can unmute to ask a question at the end. And before we get started today too, it's very important to us that we acknowledge that we come to you from the Haldimand Tract. This is land that was promised to the Haudenosaunee of the Six Nations of the Grand River and is within the territory of the Neutral, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee peoples. We are mindful as we listen to the stories of these Irish women and on International Women's Day that we too must care for and strive for justice for the First Nations women of Turtle Island. And now I would like to introduce you to the host of Deconstructing Erin, Aoife Nally. Aoife was born and raised in Waterloo, Ontario, where she thrived in the community art scene. And from there, she went on to join McGill University's prestigious opera performance program in Montreal. And then after that, she went to form the Opera Musical Theatre Company, Second Company, which put on many wonderful productions here in town, if you were lucky enough to see them. After that, she went on to do classical theatre intensive postgraduate studies at the London Academy of Music and Drama in the UK. She has remained in England and went on to perform on the West End in shows such as Jerry Springer, the opera, Sweeney Todd with Imelda Staunton, and Evita, just to name a few. Currently, she is grounded here due to the pandemic in Canada, where she was working on her multimedia performance, literary and visual arts piece of creative nonfiction titled Drawing Strength, An Artist's Guide to Creative Recovery. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Aoife to fill you in more on her work on her great uncle, T.H. Nally, and the Spancel of Death.
Great. Thank you, Sue. Thank you for having me in the festival. This is my sister, by the way, on Women's Day. I get to work with my sister. Yay, it's so rare. I'd like to thank the IRL Festival for having me back, because the reason I am grounded here is because I came last year to give a talk on my great uncle. So I think it was a happy twist of fate that I was here, grounded and safe in this wonderful, on the Halderman track, in this beautiful place. So thank you, IRL, for having me back. I've had a year-long IRL festival. Yeah, so I created this Deconstructing Erin to celebrate the women of Ireland through the works of my great uncle. He's going to be an honorary suffragette today. Yeah, it's very important this day, and I love the land acknowledgement here, and I want to, wherever you are, I know we have people from England, from Ireland, I think Jersey, if Simon has shown up, just to remember the land you're on as well, and the ancestors that walked, and of course the women that carried us to term. So if we'll have a moment in your thoughts for the important women who brought us here on this very special day. The reason I called this event Deconstructing Erin is because at the time when the Abbey Theatre was being born, when the psyche of the Irish nation was being formed on that stage, it was the women that were funding it, that were collecting the stories, that were bringing it all together. So they were the lifeblood, even though we have W.B. Yeats as the figurehead, as the poet, as the voice of the stage. It was really the women who brought the lifeblood into the theatre. So it's really important to remember Lady Augusta Gregory, and Annie Horniman, especially, who raised the money and bought the building. Yeah, so at that time in the theater, even though the women were essentially the birthers of this nation, really, this new nation coming through, they were often depicted in song and stories as old mothers that needed rescuing, or young, helpless, beautiful objects of love and desire. They were often more allegory than human, although beautiful and inspiring to the rebels and the people that had to fight for their freedom. The play my uncle wrote at this time, The Spancel of Death, this notorious piece, I think sticks out because he wrote it about real women going through very real, distressing times of great misery and trying to find power in a powerless state. So the writing is very unusual. When you hear it, what I want you to hear is how much agency the women have, and how much power they're grabbing at when there's none to be had. They speak like real people. They are the roles themselves within the play are enormous. We can ask Nora and Evelyn afterwards, the actresses coming on, just how large the roles are, the intensity and the arc, and they actually get to be fully rounded characters with agency. So I'm really excited about sharing this play with you today, and sort of deconstructing that helpless allegory and bringing in these real women. So my uncle, T.H. Nally, who I love talking about and can talk about for hours on end. If anyone wants to take me out for a pint, I will talk to you hours on end. He's my great uncle through my father's line. He was a brilliant man. He was a chemist, a scientist, an electrical engineer, a chemical, electrical, medical engineer. He worked for the land board. He wrote books on coal mining. He's associated with the esoteric societies in Dublin, so he may or may not have been part of the Golden Dawn movement with Yeats. I know in his letters and diaries, what I've read between them, they are definitely sharing esoteric ideas back and forth, so making discoveries and reading similar books. So I'm deep into my research now, trying to find out how deep his association went with the magical esoteric side of the Dublin Celtic Twilight movement and the Cultural Revolution. But he definitely offered this play. He grew up in County Mayo, which is in the west of Ireland. I call it the Wild West, because when I went, I found it really charged and still quite traditional, and the stories seem really close to the surface on the landscape. And I could get lost crossing a field because just the magnetic energies of the place are really powerful. So he grew up in Bal, where this play takes place, and he grew up hearing these stories of this really notorious event that happened. This cunning woman, this magical woman, this holder of wisdom that lived there, named Judy Julian, real name, would do the healing of the time that was needed, offer remedies, love drafts, curses, and cures as needed. But when pushed came to shove, and the landlord seduced her only godchild and left her for another and another and another, she began to use darker magics. And she had a book called the Lever Dove, I think, in Gaelic. My Gaelic isn't very good, but the Dumb Book, which was passed down generation to generation. So through the mother line, this deep magic came down through this woman. So he would have grown up with these stories, and the stories are still true. If you go to Bal in the West Country, people are still talking. You can take a taxi from the train to my auntie's house and they'll say, did you hear of the Spancel of Death and this woman who did this thing? So it's the stories are very alive. I had a neighbor from down the road came up to me, my first visit there, and he said, I have your horse. I'm like, I don't have a horse. What do you mean? And a horse that died on my uncle's farm in 1890. Got buried in that neighbor's front yard, and he still thinks he can give the horse back to me. Like, these things are very alive in that countryside. So so my uncle, being fascinated with folk stories, traditional Gaelic, the dialect of the area, he's a real brilliant anthropologist. I'd say the only frustrating part of the play is he puts so much detail in. He'll tell you who the butler was, who drove the horse cart when the governess was going to the big house. Like, he really loves to get all the names right and all the detail right, and the names, dates, and places, to the point where in a letter to Yeats, there was a big argument where Yeats was saying, change the names. This is too notorious. People will get upset and hurt any living relatives. And my uncle's fighting back, going, no, these women absolutely have to be named. The last of their descendants is 94 and about to die, and the story has to be told as is. So he was a pedantic anthropologist. So you can rest assured, everything you hear and the first thing on the script, the first line, is based on absolute fact. So these notorious happenings absolutely happened as is. And that's important on this day, as well as we honor women and watch. Like, I think he really gave a lot to get this right for the story to come forward. I believe why he was so interested in it is that it's based in 1777. He's born 1890-ish. This is being written 1915. His grandfather was an engineer and ended up being the one to demolish the house of the wise woman, of the cunning woman, Judy Julian. And as he knocked down the chimney breast, he reached in and found an object, and it was this gnarly thing covered in many colors of silk, and held it in his hands, knowing it was a thing of magical properties, not knowing good or evil or what it was, and surrendered it to the church, where it was hung up side of the church as a warning against evil doing and witchcraft for centuries. It has disappeared since, maybe disintegrated because it's organic properties. But yeah, so he wrote this out of the passion for his lineage and these stories. And the landlord mentioned Sir Henry Lynch Bloss. Our family worked for him as the tax collectors, as the bad guys, the men who collected the rents. We've turned around since and become good Republicans and tried to make amends for that. But at the time, there was this mixed feelings about the landlord, the power there, working for, working against. So it was a really personal story to him. What we were discussing yesterday in rehearsal was, like, when you get to see the play, we're about to do a good chunk of it for you. Picture it in an Edwardian time, very proper Christian people watching this on Easter week. This is what's fascinating to me, why they would offer something so subversive on Easter week 1916. It's got black magic. It speaks up against the church. The priest has its say, but he doesn't get the last word. Women are talking a lot. They're getting a lot of words in, a lot of jibes in. They're taking revenge on the landlord and succeeding. Like, it was wildly subversive. The dialect was subversive. The Gaelic was subversive. And in a letter, and when there was a if and or but, should we do this play? It was said that this play will either do really, really well, or it really, really won't. And knowing Yeats a bit, getting to know him now through his letters and diaries and just reading more, I'm wondering if he was banking on a riot, because that was one way to get people out into the streets. So if you feel like rioting today, you're in your own homes, feel free, but you have to clean it up yourself. But if we rile you up and you're like, women, Ireland, feel free, feel free. Yes, so the play can and will speak for itself. It is very charged. It was abandoned the Monday evening the rising began in 1916 Dublin. So a lot of actors, in fact, one of the actors went out and was the first to shoot and die at Dublin Castle. So this was very real for the actors, and they abandoned the play. The reason we have a script in the Irish archives is because one of them went back to sign in with the company director, gave back his script because his gun was hidden beneath the dressing room table. So that's why we have a script in the archive. We have two, and I've put the scraps of paper together and come up with a sort of a nice put together script. So it was considered cursed. It's been people have tried to put it on many a time. There's been a lot of partial readings. There was almost a full production in Boston in the 80s, but it's always been quite unsettled. People have, it's powerful, and it's got a lot of, it's a lively play. So the actresses I'm about to introduce you to, Evelyn Lockley and Nora Connolly, were the first to read it full word to absolute word. We staged a stage reading of it in an abandoned Victorian music hall in London. Well, no longer abandoned. Wilton's, very beautiful music hall. And they had the courage to join me in that crazy. we white knuckled it. It was a very strange time in England as well, because there was a lot of election upheaval. The DUP were coming in and doing nasty things, and Brexit, and it kind of felt like the unstable Dublin of maybe 1916. I remember us being very on edge, and I remember sitting watching the first time the words sounded, and it was the first time I would be heard in 101 years. And I thought, well, if we get through the first 4 words, I think we'll survive and we'll break this curse. So Nora Connolly and Evelyn Lockley are my heroes. And we survived. We absolutely survived. And it was absolutely thrilling to hear. So I want to bring you just this taste of what that feels like, in hopes that we can bring a fully fledged staged production here, there, and everywhere, and just get this I am biased, this magnificent play heard. As we said, like, there'll be loads of times for questions, because I think there's a lot of information to take in, and I hope it will spark lots of ideas. So do save them up in the chat, or you can raise your hand after, and we can go on for ages about this. But in advance, I just want to do one thing, because I'm not sure about curses, but I know that this is a play based on real women who went through horrible things and did their best when there was nothing else to do. So I do like to I want to light a candle in their remembrance, because everything is absolute fact. And I just want to send them peace and rest where they are, so they can settle and let this play, every time it's heard, just be an act of healing. And I want to remember today Lady Gregory as well, and Annie Horniman, and Florence Farr, and Adele Dalmer, who recreated the script in Boston, who died not long ago. And just remember these women who've lived these tales, if you'll join me. And just if you have women in your life as well you'd like to bring in, wise women who've helped you, cunning women who've taught you, the women who've brought any magic to your life, if we could just take a moment now to settle that in, and give them their due today before we read.
Nora holds a candle.
Thank you, Nora. Okay, Ellen Colgan and Judy Julian, Sibby Cottle, Ellen Colgan's mother, Lady Augusta Gregory, Florence Farr, Adele Dalmer, and Annie Horniman, and all the women of the Abbey Theatre and the Rebels. We wish you rest in peace today. Thank you for being with us. Great, okay. So I'll bring on our actors. Miss Nora Connolly.
Oh, that's me.
She'll be playing our Julie Julian today, our wise woman, our cunning woman. And Miss Evelyn Lockley will be taking on Mistress Sibby Cottle. Okay, and I always have a grain of tea for my Uncle Thomas, who never had a grain of tea himself. So Thomas as well. Is everyone sitting comfortably?
Yes, I'm sorry my image is a little bit softer or out of focus than yourself, Eva.
It's the magic, it's the magic.
I am in the far west of Ireland right now.
Absolutely. In a small stone cottage. It always seems to be nighttime. You can hear the wind outside the windows and at the bad end of the field. Okay. The Spancel of Death. Opening scene. The interior of a peasant's cottage. A small deal table sits in the center of the floor. Some three-legged stools with high backs, one heavy wooden chair. There is an open hearth fireplace with a range over the fire. There's a small 4-paned window in the back wall between the recessed bed and door. A stout nail over the wall near the window. An old flax spinning wheel and a tall iron rushlight candlestick on the table. A tin lantern hangs on the wall near the fireplace and a large patchwork quilt on the recessed bed. We find Judy Julian, a dark, mysterious old peasant who is known secretly to practice witchcraft in the black arts, tending the fire. It is late afternoon, September 1777, County Mayo, the west of Ireland. We hear knocking on the cottage door. Sibby Cottle, a handsome young woman, a governess for Sir Harry Lynch Bloss of Ball, dressed in a long dark cloak with a hood drawn over her head. She lifts the latch and opens the door.
Are you Mrs. Julian?
Oh, 'tis indeed, miss. Or begging your pardon, it's ma'am I should be calling ye. Won't you come in and welcome?
I suppose you don't know me then.
No, then, miss, I don't. You have the advantage of me there. I don't think you were here before.
No, Miss Julian, I have never been here before, but I have heard a great deal about you. Your fame has spread far and wide. I'm Miss Cottle. I am the housekeeper for Sir Henry Lynch Bloss. So you see, I am now a neighbour of yours.
Oh, is that so, miss? You're very welcome then.
I only came a few weeks ago from Moor Hall, and even up there I heard of you.
Oh, sure, they do come to me from all parts, miss. I do be tossing the cup or maybe cutting the cards for them. It do amuse them. Won't you sit down, miss? Maybe you'd like me to cut the cards for you, miss, though I rather toss your cup. Only I haven't a grain of tea in me house. 'Tis hard for the poor people to get the tea.
Oh, of course it is, Mrs. Julian. Oh, you must let me send you some to tell my fortune. I'd like it very much. But the cards would do now, if you have the time to do it.
Oh, plenty of time, miss. Of course. Plenty of time. It won't take a minute. Now, here, miss. 'Tis dirty enough they are. But it won't take a minute, but they're sure they'll do as if they were gold. Now, cut them 3 times, miss.
This way, I suppose.
Yes, that's the way. Now, cut them 2 lots into 3 parts, and that'll make 7.
Why 7 lots, Mrs. Olean?
Sure. They say 'tis for the 7 days of creation, and the 7, yes, the 7 stars in the plough. And because this is the year 1777.
Very curious signs.
Oh, troth, there's queer things in the cards, miss, if we only knew all. Now, let's look at this. Endo tre caha cuig she. Shocked. Misha tisha tourist dian and all day. Tigam la holin shock malak Oh, 'tis many. 'Tis many a girl that give her eyes for out what's coming to you.
Oh, that's splendid. What is it? What is it, Mrs. Olean? Will I soon be married?
Well, then, well, you will and you won't. 'Tis great good fortune is in store for ye, and maybe sooner than you think. There's a high up man who'll fall in love with you. He's young, and fair haired, and has plenty of money, and he'll be loaded with gold and diamonds and jewels and chains, and be a great lady. If but no matter.
If what? Oh, Mrs. Olean, tell me. If what? Oh, I'm dying to know.
Well, if them that's against you were out of your way.
Who are against me? Who are they, Mrs. Olean? I don't think I have any enemies.
Maybe you haven't now, but you won't be long so, believe me. And if you do as I bid ye and take heed of what I say, you'll get the better of them all.
Well, this is very strange. Oh, why should I have any enemies? And how am I to know them? What am I to do?
I'll soon tell you, for I have ways to find out, but you mustn't speak a word of it to a mortal breathing. Now mind that. 'Tis no joke, I'm telling ye.
Indeed, I will not. No, I have no intention of doing anything of the kind, or even of letting anyone I know. I came to see you.
Ah, that's right. But above all, don't let the priest know. He's no friend of mine, and if you're sent and led by him, you'll never be the mistress of the big house above.
Mistress of Moat House? Whatever do you mean?
Oh, 'tis in the cards, if you can be, if you like. If you don't want to take the chance when it's out in front of you, then go home and don't darken my door again.
But I have no such chance, Mrs. Olean. Such a thing never entered my head. Oh, Sir Harry wouldn't look at one like me.
Now, what would ye say if I made him look at you, and what's more, fall in love with you? There's more than you'd be glad to get him, if only I'd helped them.
You're a terrible woman, Mrs. Olean, to put such notions into my head, as if Sir Harry would.
Would what? No. Oh, do you see that? Look at the cards. Here is the King of Hearts. Note that. And here is the Queen of Hearts. That's you. So take him or leave him now as you please. But remember, you won't get him again.
But I don't understand, Mrs. Julian. How could you give him to me? Does he come here to see you too?
Come here to see me. Oh, me, a tenant on the property. Oh, stop your mouth, girl. Whoever yet knew of a landlord come to a tenant's house, they'd go into hell first. All the same, I could get the anvil turned on him and bring him here as I did you, if I wanted to.
You brought me here.
No, you came of your own free will. Oh, yes, your own free will, Anna.
You frighten me, Mrs. Julian. I'll go away and I'll never come near you again. You're a terrible woman.
Oh, truth, you won't go away, and if you do, you'll soon come back again. Talk sense, dear woman. 'Tis a fortune and riches galore I'm handing over to ye that your betters would be glad to jump at.
And why do you want to do it for me? You never saw me before and know nothing about me.
Well, because it pleases me, if you want to know. I owe neither you nor him ill will, so may you be happy together.
Even if I doubt your power to make such a good match for me, I could do worse than trying it.
If you lived for 1,000,000 years, you couldn't do better. I know what you are talking about. Now, here, take these candles and light one of them every night in your bedroom when the clock strikes 12. Leave the rest to me.
I'll try anyway. To burn a candle can't do any harm.
Now, go and come to me in 7 nights before the last night light is lit. Go now, not another word.
Oh, but I mustn't forget to thank you, Mrs. Julian, for all of your...
No money. And no thanks either till I keep me promise. You can send me a grain of tea if you like.
I will, indeed. Good evening then, Mrs. Julian.
Now, Sir Henry, me bucko. I'm thinking Sally Colgan's dying curse, like the black cloud on the bog, is gathering thick and heavy over me head. 'Tis creeping up from her grave and falling on the father of her little girl. And may it with you, seed and breed and generation like a blast of the night wind. May no child of yours ever call your property his own. Oh, 'twas my fault. I know 'twas my fault, Sally Astor. But I never intended that. But if the powers of darkness and all the devils in hell can do it, I'll make you pay dear for breaking the heart of my godchild, you pash dog.
Scene 2. We are in Judy Julian's cottage as before. A rush light holder with a lighted rush candle is on the table. There's a fire in the open hearth. Judy Julian is discovered attending to a pot hanging on an S-hook from an iron crane over the fire. It is late into the night, 5 years later. Sibby Coddle has become mistress to Sir Harry Lynch Bloss and has borne him several children, and is now dressed in the manner of a fine lady. Judy has fallen on hard times, and her sons have been forced to steal sheep and young women to ransom to survive. Judy's husband was transported for sheep stealing not long ago, and now the bailiff has served her an eviction notice at the urging of the parish priest, even though Sibby Coddle has been paying her rent for years. We hear an urgent knocking at the door.
Who there?
It is I. Judy, open quickly. I want to see you at once.
Oh, it's you, Sibby, is it? Oh, it's a cure for sore eyes to see you here in these times. Isn't it late you come? What's the matter now?
I'm in terrible trouble, and I want to know if you can help me.
Oh, I thought as much. It isn't often you cross our threshold now, Sibby, unless you want something. What's wrong now? Mrs. Brown again,
No, nothing of that sort. Oh, I wish it was only that. It is far,
Oh.
far worse.
Isn't it a nice way to be treated after all I done for you the last 5 years?
Whatever do you mean, Judy? Surely I haven't treated you badly. You cannot say that I haven't done everything that you ever wanted me to do. What do you mean?
And you don't know that Potcher, the bailiff, gave us our walking paper, our notice to quit today.
The bailiff? Here? Today with a notice to quit? What do you mean? I don't understand that. What do you mean?
Oh, so that's all you know about it, is it? Too busy with your man and your children, I suppose, to care about how them put you where you are in luxury and comfort are treated by the Schlievings and spies on this estate. Do you know, Sibby Cottrell, that this is only the 7th time in 3 years that you crossed my threshold? Do you know that now? We might be dead and rotten for all you care since you got all you wanted.
3 years. Goodness me, how time flies. But tell me, what is the meaning about all of this notice to quit? It is not for rent, for I have always seen that your rent is paid.
Rent, indeed. As if rent had stopped them. If you want to know, it's Potcher and the priest that's at the bottom of it.
Oh dear. Oh, why didn't you let me know this before, Judy? I'll have the bailiff dismissed tomorrow and his daughter to leave the big house at once. How dare they interfere with you? I'll teach them a lesson. You should have told me all of this long ago.
Oh, told you long ago. How was I to tell you? Call it the big house maybe and have the dog set on me?
Well, no matter now, Judy. Look, I'm glad it's not too late for your sake, although I'm afraid it is too late for mine. Oh, God in heaven. Judy, what am I to do this night? Oh, Judy, I am in a great distress and I don't know what to do. He's going to leave me after all of these years.
Oh, going to leave you. Well, 5 years is a long time for him to remain constant. But did he tell you he was?
No, but I found it out this morning. He got a letter in his pocket from Dublin and I saw that it upset him very much. So I went to his room and I got the letter. Here it is. Kildare Street, Dublin. 23rd of October, 1782. Dear Harry, I was delighted to learn of your intention to get married to Lady Mary. She is the woman in 1,000, and the allegiance will enable you to clear off some of that mortgage, which has long been a source of worry to me as a trustee for the past 10 years.
I'm sure there's nothing much to worry over in that. They're always marrying him to someone or other, but he isn't gone yet.
No, listen to this. I hope you will have no serious difficulty in getting rid of that other person. It is high time that that liaison ceased and that you settled down to do more serious duties of life. However, as your guardian, I should be pleased to know how you treated Mistress Cottle and her children decently. Give her a reasonable, if not even a liberal sum, and send her and them out of the country. The farther away, the better. Oh, good God, I can read no more. Isn't that enough for you? They mean to take him from me, woman. Do you not see what they do? To curse them and their estates and Lady Mary and curse all of them, curse everything.
Save your breath, Sibby, to cool your porridge. He isn't gone from you yet, and he won't either, if I know anything.
Oh, you said that before, and look.
And what? And what I say, maybe you'll be telling me next that I did nothing for you. 'Tis just 5 years, this very night, you first darkened my door, and look at you now, in your silks and satins and fine linen. You had best go home, I'm thinking, and do your own love making and love binding yourself.
No. Judy, you're always ready to take me up shortly and wrongly. I didn't ever say that you failed to keep your promises. You have always done so, and you have never failed me yet, and that is why I come to you now for your help. Whatever will I do? They will surely take him from me.
Oh, truth then. Whinging and whining won't stop him if he wants to leave you.
Oh, curse them and curse them again and 1,000 times, and root and branch.
Indeed. How can you keep him if he wants to go?
I can poison him first, and I would too. I would first rather see him dead and then marry Lady Mary.
Oh, then marry any other woman but yourself, you mean. Well, what do you want me to do for you?
Oh, can't you do something for me? Couldn't you make me some love draught that I could give to him and that he could drink and that he would prevent him from leaving me? Some of those things that you make up for the other young women. Oh, surely you know of something. Something.
Sure, love drafts and yes, I make plenty of them for the unshocks that want them, but that's all the good they do them. Where do you think I'll be getting the king eel blood and the black sow's milk and the Spanish midges? To give every trollop that wants a dozer man for her miserable few shillings.
But I'll give you any money you want, any money.
No, Sibby Cottle, love drafts will do you no good. It's the borough wash itself you'll be wanting, I'm thinking. Nothing short of the Spancel of Death will hold your man. And daughter of the devil and all as they call me, I'm not going that far, even for you.
Oh, Judy, I'll do anything in the world that you would ask me. I'd pay you any money you want if it would only keep him from leaving me. Anything in the world. I don't care what it is.
Pay any money indeed. As if money could buy it. The money was never coined yet that could buy the Spancel of Death. Take heed of that now, I'm telling you.
Would it keep him with me forever, in spite of them?
Oh, it'll keep him with you while he lives anyway. That I'll swear to.
But would it kill him or do him any harm? I wouldn't harm him for the world.
Sure, there you are again. 1 minute you're poisoning him, and the next you wouldn't harm him for the worlds. The devil a hurt, the spancel would do him, beyond making him stick to you to thick and thin. And maybe that'd be harm enough if he knew but all.
Oh, Judy, I would die if he left me and the children now.
Ah, sure, well, anyhow, one died before you. And if he left you himself, you wouldn't be the first he left. Let me tell you that now. I know more about him than you do.
Oh, you'll get me the spancel, Judy. You will. I know you will. And like the dear, good friend that you've always been to me, and I'll do anything on earth you ask of me.
Maybe it isn't anything on earth you'd have to give for it, me good girl. Think of that now. Isn't on earth you'd be paying the price for it. Would ye be prepared to pay for it in some other way?
Yes, in any way. Oh, if it will only do what I want, I don't care what it costs me.
If you had to pay for it hereafter, as you will, maybe you wouldn't be so smart in asking for it. Take care what you're saying now, mind you.
What do I care for the hereafter if all I love here is taken from me? I'd go to hell this minute to keep him.
Oh, you would you? Are you sure what you're saying now, Sibby Cottle? Mind you, once you start on the spancel, there'll be no drawing back. Take heed now, I'm telling you.
Yes, yes, I am sure. I won't draw back. Only it must bind him to me forever.
Very well then. You'll get a spancel that'll bind him and you till the devil takes ye both. And that'll be many and many and many and many a day yet. But mind ye, the gassy must be said with your own lips and the spell done with your own hands.
I don't care, gassy or no gassy. I'll do it. You'll want some money, I suppose, to get things.
Yes, I'll want £10 to get the silk and the wax candles and things, and another 10 to give my son Ned to get the corpse.
A corpse? Do you mean you'll have to get a dead body?
Oh, so you're getting frightened already. Sibby Cottle, I'm thinking you don't want my help at all. Maybe you'd just better drop it now before we begin and have done with it for good and all. For ye will want a corpse, and fresh from the grave too, I may tell you. And we'll have to do something to it that you won't like. So make up your mind now once and for all and say no more about it.
I don't care what you want. I'll have the spancel at any cost. But here is some money for you now, and I'll bring you the rest.
Mind you, it isn't for any money you could give me that I'm going to do this awful thing for you. I have my own reasons, and they have nothing to do with you.
I'll never forget this to you, Judy. Anything or any money you want, I'll give you. You've only to ask.
Oh, well, say about that. Now, go back home and don't come near me again for your life for 7 days and 7 nights, counting as the first day and tomorrow night as the first night. Then come here on the 7th night. It'll be November Eve, about this time, and bring me a gold wedding ring and 7 hairs from your man's head. Take heed of the time and the ring and the hairs, or it'll spoil everything. Go, now.
I won't forget. I'll bring them and do it.
November Eve, 7 days later, 1782. Judy Julian is discovered sitting at a table, sharpening a black-handled knife on a scythe stone. She tests its edge from time to time on a piece of stick. She takes the lantern from the wall, puts a stump of candle in it, lights it, and wraps the lantern in a black cloth. She goes to the drawer of the dresser and takes out 7 wax candles and places them on the table. Then takes 2 pieces of hazel stick and binds them together with a strip of black silk floss to form a cross. Then takes an oak rod from the top of the dresser and a stone bottle from the drawer, supposed to contain human blood, and places them on the table. Then takes from under the recessed bed a long black cloth with a circular hole cut in the center, large enough to allow the head to pass through. Upon one side of the black cloth, there are 3 white circles, all resembling a priest's mortuary chasuble. After trying this on, she also places it on the table and covers the lot with her cloak. She pulls out 7 threads of silk, one by one, and waits for Sibby's arrival.
Red, yellow, orange, green, blue, indigo, and violet. Yes, and the black piece of cloth too, for the colors of the rainbow, and the shocked Moloch, and the 7 days of creation, and the last of all the 7 million years. Sibby Cottle will be in hell for the Spancel. I think everything is here. The candles and the blood and the cross and the oak kippeen and the black hafted knife. Yes, they're all here. Oh, musha. Oh, musha. But it's cold. It's getting...
Well, Judy, are you ready for me? Or am I too early?
Oh, not a bit too early. Did Sir Harry come home yet?
No, not till tomorrow night. And I don't know where he's been.
Ah, it makes no differ. Take a stool there and rest.
Did you get the silk and the candles and things?
Oh, sure, they're all there waiting for you. Bolt the door while I'm covering the window. There's many an eye in the darkness and many a call in the wind. Now, there's 7 lights and the hazel cross and the black chasuble.
Oh, what a queer lot of things. What are they all for?
It's a part of the charm.
Oh, it's a horrible thing. Oh, is there no other way of doing it except with a dead body?
No other way, and there's more that needs to be done, so you might as well know it at once.
Oh, what else have I to do? Oh, the whole thing is too dreadful to think about it, but I will do it or die.
No fear. No fear of ye dying at all. Many another woman did it before ye. It is as old as the hills, so it's been a long time since it was done here. Not in my time, nor in my mother's time, nor maybe in her mother's time either. They often do it back in Eris. Most of them here stop at the turning of the anvil, same as I did for ye 5 years ago. But since old Sean Holohan died, there's no one in these parts that does it.
Oh, couldn't Pat Hughes or Jimmy Madden or any blacksmith do it just as well?
Oh, just thought I'd lost you. That's all you know about it. No man can turn the anvil, but the seventh son of a blacksmith, and all of them must be blacksmiths. And old Sean was that.
Oh, I wish there was another way of doing it. What else do I have to do?
Right. Take this in your right hand. Then we'll take the lid off the coffin and lift her out onto the Sugon mat. Then you'll take this black-hafted knife, and with one blow, you'll drive it into the left-hand side of the corpse near the heart. Then you'll stick it through the instep of each foot. But you'll want to be careful with the right instep, not to spoil the shin for the burra. Then you'll put the knife to the palms of the two hands and out the back.
I won't do it. I won't do it. I'd drop dead if I did such a horrible thing. Oh, horror of horrors. Let me leave this house at once. I'd no idea it was as blasphemous, as damnable. Let me out of this.
You'll do it. You'll do it. I've wrought the charm for 7 nights at your bidding. Performed the tourist tuffle last night in the churchyard beyond before the cock crew. And now you'll finish it all. 2 instead of 1 will be back in Ellen Colgan's coffin to the grave tonight. You'll not fool me, Sibylla Cotton. And if you want your man to leave you good and well, he won't have much trouble if you go back on me this night.
No, it's too awful. It's too awful.
He'll marry the other woman as sure as I'm alive if you don't. Then if I don't kill you myself, the sight of him living with her will do it soon enough. For he'll pitch you out on the dunghill as he did Ellen Colgan's mother before you.
Don't, Judy, don't, for mercy's sake, stop. I cannot do it. I cannot do it.
If you don't, you'll rue this day. You'll be the scorn on the lips of every woman in this country. And the beggar man even won't look at you at the side of the road where you'll be with your fatherless children whinging at your heels, maybe coming to me for a night's shelter.
Oh, stop, woman, for God's sake, stop. You'll drive me mad.
That's the truth I'm telling you. And you know it well. With the haystack for your bed and the skies for your blankets, you'll die in the ditch of starvation and want.
Oh, God, and God in heaven, what am I to do this night? I'll do it. I'll do it if it will cost me my eternal soul.
Right. No. Here, that's better. See this. Take a drop. Take a drop of this poteen. It'll put the spunk into you. But 'tis you that has the chicken's heart, or your man going to leave you if you don't stop him.
Oh, go on. Look, tell me all. I'm in it now, and I'll go through with it. What more is to be done? Look, what is this Spancel?
Keep up your courage, woman dear. Sure, 'tis not worth a throne, you are. I'll take a sup of this myself to keep you company.
Oh, tell me what more I shall have to do. Look, I am afraid I will never have the courage at that last moment.
Don't be afraid. Sure, you'll be all right. Sure, 'tis only a trifle compared with losing your man.
Don't goad me like that. It's bad enough without that. Tell me all I have to do. Don't keep me in suspense.
Well, when she's stretched out on the Sugorn mat, and after the holes are put in her, you'll take the knife and make the signs I'm telling you. And thin cut the burra. It's just a hoop of skin without any break in it. And once you put the knife in, you mustn't take it out again till the whole first cut is made. Then you give it to me and I'll cover it with silk and make the spancel.
Oh, but what have I got to do with the horrible thing?
When I'm finished with it, you'll tie Sir Harry's shins together with one end of it.
Oh, but if he should wake?
He won't wake. Don't you fear. For I'll give you something to keep him asleep. Then you'll tie your own two shins with the other end of the spancel and say the words I'll tell you and lie with him like that till the cock crows.
It's horrible, revolting, abominable.
It's here.
Whoa. It's here. Ellen Colgan has arrived. We'll stop it there so that you don't riot in the Zoom. It might just get so intense. So in the play, there's another act where we see the consequences of these desperate actions by these powerful women. And when you come to see the whole play, we'll show you the extent they go to get the revenge on this landlord and get their own power back. Well done, you guys. This is on Zoom to create an atmosphere and have us enthralled. Thank you for that. Yeah, I hope that raises some interesting questions about why this was written, why it was presented at that time, what my uncle was thinking, how it feels to act this lost and found script. You can ask our actresses how it feels. Yeah, anything you'd like to know, we will endeavor to answer. Unnerving. Someone says unnerving. Yeah. And especially in a theater when we usually play it in the round where everyone's invited into the cottage. Some of you were there. I know Paula was there. Elise was there. It really, people said they forgot they weren't in a cottage when we were trapped in all together. It gets really intense when we can be in the same room. So yeah, we did our best in a Zoom room. Yeah. Yeah, so if you have a question, you can raise your hands or we can just talk at will. Yeah, Evie, maybe do you want to say how it felt to be the first to read a cursed script?
the first to read a cursed script. I think it's quite terrifying. I think it's quite it's transformative just because it's so different. It's so unusual. The language is so so strange and so specific. And I think upon initial reading, or on like first reading, I think there'd be a temptation, which would be to sort of archaically put these women in sort of, you know, a tropes level. But actually, I think what you highlighted at the very start of this, Aoife, was that you pointed out that actually these are about two women that seek out power where otherwise they wouldn't have any. Two unmarried women at the edge of society, especially one choosing to have children out of wedlock with someone in a different class to her.
Seven children.
Seven children. I mean, she was busy.
He died young. He died at 39, so they got on with it.
Well, exactly. So, I mean, I think that initially, I think when you first read it, it can be very hard to get into the world of it. And I think the memory of getting to be in a room all together in Wilton's collectively, I think it was also a field of wonderful knowledge that came from lots of, like, you know, our cast then and our cast now, from, you know, the hugely knowledgeable Nora Connolly. But I think, yes, it's dense. I think it feels quite dense. I think there's also, you have to go there. I think there's something really, there's such a temptation, which is to want to dismiss or to minimize, especially on Zoom when we're in such a small, weird state. But actually, it is melodrama. It is heightened. It is very intense. And so you have to kind of give over to the lit candle in the darkness and allow the warmth of the flame take you, if you will.
Yeah. Well, thank you for bringing us there. And you should see the last act is even more intense. Like, we do ramp up to absolute agony and ecstasy. It's incredible to watch. And you were so brave. The first performance was terrifying. It's like, nobody died.
Just about.
Yeah. I did, just as an interesting point, I did cast this show through tarot. So I did pull cards for every performer, and these two got very good readings. And I had an astrologer say the cast would survive, but you would lose one the day of the performance. And we lost a cast member and had to rewrite the play in an afternoon. So yeah, it's one of those plays that's got a life of its own. I call it the Irish-Scottish play. You know, it should not be spoken of. Oh, yeah. Nora, how did it feel today just to do the women's parts and to cut out like the priests and the sons, and we cut out every other character and just had you two in this intense like dialogue? How did you feel about that?
Well, for me, on International Women's Day, you know, all the significant sort of in-between stories about the two sons, Ned and can't remember his name.
Teddy.
Not Teddy, thank you. But the energy, and there's another young woman in the play. But yeah,
Teddy,
the dynamic energy is between Judy and Sibby. So it was very interesting or valuable to just focus and center on that. So I have, but it makes the play 3 times longer if you include all those other people, all those other characters. But so how did I feel? I enjoyed it. It's tough. It's hard work because I am, you know, the character of Judy in a longer version of the play can emerge sort of more slowly. But I enjoyed, and I'm not saying like wicked witches and things like that, but what we were talking about, the melodrama and heightened drama, the point is I had to, with your direction, ramp that up. So I hope that the energy and dynamic of the character Judy wasn't overemphasized. I feel very conscious about that.
Okay, no, that's good. We have a question from Stephen. He says, tense and gripping. Everyone's saying it was enthralling and gripping. So Nora, I think we pulled them in. I think it's looking good in the chat. I think they want to see more. Come on, IRL. But he's thinking what the reaction might have been if it was performed in 1916. And honestly, I can't imagine that they would, I think it would be stopped by the church, or someone would come up.
Yeah. Well, if you
I
think
don't
of
see it.
I mean, thinking of the riots that in 1904, at the mention of a slip, at the mention of
A dumb
of
show with a
her.
flag.
Exactly. So I can't imagine it being allowed to. I mean, I think it would make for wonderful column inches. I think there's something kind of fascinating about the showman and Yeats to want to be able to cause that riot and to start that riot. But
Yeah.
yeah, just to think that a decade previous, that that Playboy caused such uproar, that
Yeah.
that what, like 12 years later, that this could be there seems
Yeah.
almost unfathomable.
Yeah.
I mean, we must let anybody else who wishes to make comments come in. But that is what is so astonishing, because on that playbill, the Abbey Theatre playbill of Kathleen de Houlihan was also the Spancel of Death. And, we know, because we've been examining this, why the production didn't go any further forward. But, going back to what Aoife said, and looking at her own notes, with Lady Augusta Gregory and Catherine Tynan, two women who were very supportive and influential with Yeats. Yes, it was an astonishing gambit or take, because what with Lady Gregory and Yeats writing Kathleen Houlihan and Judy Houlihan, all of this must have registered. So I doubt it would have been very popular. It's an extraordinary play.
Critics at the time who did read the script, there were a few that got it before the performance was meant to go on, I guess, to write in advance. They were horrified. They said it was the most gruesome thing. I'll tell you, today we actually cut out the gruesome bits. So this is slightly watered down for Zoom. We took out some of the darker magics because I like people to be in a room and safe and sound together when we deal with that sort of stuff. We did have someone was asking if we had curious happenings in the room. I remember in our rehearsals, on the mention of 1777, we would always have this like sort of sound that sounded like the rim of a wine glass. There was always this, whenever the sevens came up, we'd hear like, and we had another actor who would often break out in prayer and hymns. He would often just suddenly start singing when he got really nervous. Yeah. So we did ground it with some magical practice, some Golden Dawn ritual and stuff in the second take of it. But we were mostly safe, I think, because our intentions were good, and we really wanted just to help these people in this story and my uncle. So yeah, it does get a lot darker. And the fifth act is very challenging indeed. And I didn't want to put us through that in the Zoom. So it is astounding. It's astounding how far it went, and the lengths they go to. Sue, did you have questions that people are jumping in with?
Yeah.
Yeats' reaction, Yeats didn't have much to say before, but afterwards, when my uncle was asking him to put it on, please put it on, the decade of letters that came afterwards, Yeats was very cold and off-putting and just saying, people are depressed. The rising has happened. We need Oscar Wilde. We need comedy. We need the soul of the nation cannot handle your play. So I know more about the aftermath and the foremath. Lady Gregory has more to say, but I'm still researching that. So it was more the brush-offs afterwards that we have letters from. So he was very cold afterwards. And I think he was using it as an incitement to riot. I really do think that. Yes, sorry, Sue, what do you have there?
Somebody asked, given the political context, so you've already talked a wee bit about this, but given the political context that you've outlined, how would the characters have been seen at the time when the play was presented?
Yeah. I was reading up on it today. I don't know the history well enough, but he was talking, Thomas was talking about land union. If anyone knows more about this, how that deal was just fresh. And he saw the landlord marrying a peasant as sort of this land union and how badly that was going to work in his mind. So he was trying to show that as a bad marriage, essentially. So he's sending another secret message on that front. I don't know how do you guys have thoughts on how in the political, that pre-revolutionary, really hot.
I mean, I think there'd be, again, I think it kind of does come down to a certain amount of class. I think that particularly that, you know, that both Sibby and Judy are so firmly planted in a peasant class, in sort of the lowest structure that society can be in, sort of in that framework. And I think the idea of seeing someone rise through the interaction of dark arts, like to meddle with powers greater than herself and go against the church and against God and against Christianity and going against any good Christian woman, to seek out her fortune in such a particular way and in such a base way, you know, to seduce a man of means, I think would be seen as something entirely controversial and something very I don't think it would sit well with a very middle-class Dublin audience. I don't think it would.
Yeah, in some articles they call her a woman of unending pleasure, like she was more or less pictured as a whore at the time for seducing this. And she was, you know, Thomas has compassionately made her a governess. Other people make her pretty much a prostitute. Like,
but 7 children on is a fairly well forged, commitment. You know.
And it's true that he never married anyone else. He did actually stick by her. He died quite horribly in agony at age 39. So they really got on with those children. Yeah. She didn't have him for long for the trouble she went to get him. And Moore Hall never had an heir. So the curse held, if you believe that. And Moore Hall is just being rebuilt now, I believe. Wow. They're just considering it. Yeah.
Following, this sort of follows along with that, but there was another question about who the playgoers would be. So would they have been the class of landlords or not? Like, who attended theater at that time that would have seen this? So what was that message that they wanted to get out to the theater goers?
That's a good question. Do you know Abbey Theatre actress Nora Connolly?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, yes, of course. Without doubt. Checking my book here, and there's Excellent. 1,000 books about the Abbey Theatre, but of course, along the way, this was on Easter Monday, 1916, a play, T.H. Nally's Spancel of Death was billed but never performed. So we've got all that in there. But of course, it's only a slim book, but doesn't give an account, but Aoife has researched all the correspondence. But I do find it, though, of course, Yeats and Lady Gregory, etc., were researching folklore material, I still find it questionable and fascinating that Thomas H. Nally's play emerged. It must
from
have,
a chemist.
As you say, Aoife, controversial, provocative, and maybe some, but you know, it's still absurd that this sort of play about so many primitive things to do with, you know, the west of Ireland and in particular this area in Roscommon, that that this was archived or dug up again. Yes, extraordinary.
Yeah, well, we know that the National Theatre was a place for everyone to meet, so it was egalitarian at the time. The actors were mostly shop girls, so no, there weren't professional actors. They would have their day jobs and they would come and do what they could. I know that young James Joyce would hang out and bum cigarettes off them at the back of the stage, and was renowned for, like, the students would go and sit in the cheap seats in the back, and his first writing were pamphlets about the plays, scathing reviews and stuff. So it really was the talking point. It was the hot place to get ideas out. It was just, everything was kind of revolutionary. It was just a hotbed, a collision of ideas. And I think every class was in there. But you do have to say, like, it was the women of wealth that paid for it, bought the building. And Annie Horniman was a tea magnate from England. So the money is not even Irish to build that theatre.
No, it was from many a grain of tea that built that.
We're going to pay this ornament. Yes, you're right.
Yeah. And maybe through Florence Farr and the Golden Dawn connections and the magical connect, like I've seen the tarot reading she had to decide whether or not to buy the Abbey Theatre. I've seen the cards they laid out, and WB being one of the signifiers going, should I trust this young WB? And it's absolutely fascinating that this one reading led to
the foundation of the Abbey. God.
And
So
even-
I'm fascinated.
even
Absolutely
moving on to, the obviously beyond the Celtic Twilight, onto Madame Blavatsky and Theosophy,
Yeah.
Eastern spiritualism. And if you go into Eastern spiritualism, which I sometimes do,
Mhm.
things like the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam,
Yeah.
all the business about 7 wisdoms, 7 planets, 7, all the numerology comes up.
Yeah.
About the number 7, and this play was set in 1777. So that's to do with Yeats' fascination with esoteric Eastern spiritualism, and according some sort of transference from Christian pagan Christian relationship to do with whatever the Eastern world.
And Thomas was really in that scene, and he was a devout Christian, but was really interested in pre-Christian religion. And that's why he gave Judy, I think, such a compassionate, why he wrote her so compassionately, because he thought that they should bring some of the ancient beliefs into modern Christianity. Like he really, kind of like my family now, we're really interested in that meeting point of early Christian and pagan beliefs, and bringing that strength. My uncle just wanted to bring back the strength of the ancient Celt into the modern person. Like my talk last year was about how he believes the Irish invented the Greek Olympics because they were there first and had this incredible civilization. And it was that time when they needed an identity, desperately needed an identity to break through from the oppressive regime. And so if Judy was the land as well, he was conjuring them up to rise through her as well, saying his plays are more subtle than actually what was played around it. Like Kathleen Newland is literally like, get out into the streets, and woman pointing to the sky going, come and save me already. But this one is complicated and subtle and gets to you in a very different way. I don't know if any audience members have any comments on how they felt, if they felt anything watching that. Like it must be, I think, very unsettling. It makes my skin crawl. Like I feel very overtaken, but it could be a ancestral thing, but I don't know how people felt. Someone asked, Thomas did write another play, Finn Varama, a fairy play, which is a Christmas panto where Santa was not Father Christmas because it was too English. So he wrote a big fairy that comes and helps children. And it's beautiful, and there's so much music, and it's 5 hours long and fabulous. I'm hoping to adapt it as well. And I have other scraps of his screenplays and plays, one of which I would love to present to you guys. It's called Genius in the Making, and it's about a very poor playwright who can't afford tea. And this woman, very much like Lady Augusta, like Lady Gregory, coming in and demanding tea and cakes, and bringing her poet bringing her pet playwrights with her. And this poor playwright trying to deal with the status, the upper class coming to demand art from a poor chemist who can't afford food or water or drink. And it's very funny, and he sends them up. It was probably never meant to be seen by anyone. It's not flattering, but he was writing all the time. I have 2,000 unread pages of his diaries. His work, his esoteric thoughts. He has everything from traditional Irish dyes, mythology, anthropology, to cures for cancer. Like he's Renaissance man in every meaning of the word. Heather's saying she was seized by the power of Judy's character, that makes her want to have more knowledge of the long ago women ancestors in her line. That's cool. Veronique was worried. Oh, she wouldn't be able to follow the dialect, but it was very clear. And she's she's Dutch. So, but some of the words, maybe the Gaelic sounded a bit Dutch and German. That's cool.
Mm.
I mean, ancient, it should just feel ancient. This could have happened in any country, really. It's just that, it's that ancient feminine, the deep magic that many women have had to use. Any more questions there, Sue?
There was one from Paulo about after the lockdown, what are your next steps with the play?
Oh, yeah. My goodness. Yeah, I wonder what theater's going to be, because nobody's meeting right now.
We don't know. I mean, they started casting things again here in London. Like it's very strange that there are shows that are going on tour theoretically going on tour this summer that are already holding auditions, and it feels wild and mad to think.
Well, I should tell you, Evelyn and Nora are coming to us from London. So the theme of the festival this year is coming across the waves, and these two are transatlantic. I
Yes.
don't know if I said that. I'll say this play works really well, site specific, somewhere small and very spooky. We'd like to wrap people around a tarot table and have everyone there, complicit, having their reading. We sometimes burn peat bog to give a smell
On a
of
turf fire. Yeah, turf fire.
fire.
That smoke.
The last time an audience member came with a lump of earth from Mayo, and Paolo brought swan feathers, and people often like to leave ancestral we have a little offering. If anyone is healing anything ancestral, it's also very powerful. But we can travel. It's small and fierce. We can do it with 8 people if you add the priests and sons and the other lady. But we lost a cast member, so we took it down to 7, which went into the 7 stars and the 7 days, and it was very good with 7. Very much like Veronique, like the Menotti's medium. It's very much got that. Is it real? Is it not? Is she having magical feelings, or is she just manipulating this girl? You know, it is very spooky live and wonderful to bring it to a space. And create a space. So it's very interactive when we can. So we could bring it here, there. This online was interesting. It was very, very interesting to try and reach through the room and get that feeling that I think what's most important in this play is if anyone's eavesdropping outside that cottage, if the bailiff hears, if the priest is passing, if one of the sons turns on the mother, they are dead. Everything they are doing is a death sentence. The stakes are so incredibly high. And every time I direct this, I have to remind modern actors, to be left by a man isn't a heartbreak. It isn't eat ice cream and sit in your pajamas for a week. It's you'll be out the side of the road. Women will spit at you. The community will not feed you. You will be eating grass and dying on the roadside. Like the stakes are so high. And it's hard for us to reach that level of distress and really channel that. So, and it's hard to find a cast to do that can handle this level of intensity. So.
Yeah, I mean, just on that, Aoife, I think you raise a really interesting and beautiful point, which is that, it's so intimate, and the knowledge of what living in small, tight-knit communities like that can be, which is that you're used to having people's nose and ears pressed up against windows, of walking past, and of everyone knowing your business and everyone being involved in the decision or the knowledge of everything. And so if you are doing something illicit, if you are doing something that's not approved of by the local priest, then you are an outlier. You are not to be trusted. And if you are a man that's not to be trusted, you still have autonomy theoretically to be able to live by your own standard and live under the law. But there's a woman, you have nothing under the law. You are nothing under the law. And at this time, so your whole means of survival is through a man and through and I think Judy is what is so fascinating, because she isn't, and she doesn't. She has her sons, and she's like, oh fine, I'll send them out, I'll get them to do my bidding. But she is her own mistress. And she leads that front in such a way that would naturally be met with such suspicion within a small community. Have, because she has a business, like this is, obviously she is a woman of the dark arts, and there's an entire other world of it, but also she needs that tea, she needs that money, she needs some money for for some peat in the fire. She has the on socks coming to her for some love drafts. She's able to spin this, to serve her, because she has to, You know, it's a
And we
means
find
of
out in
survival.
the play that the priest's sister has been visiting her as well.
Yes, yes.
So like when we bring the priest in, it gets pretty fiery. Like it's great to see Judy really just hit at the church. I don't know how this ever could have gone on stage, because the things she gets away with and the ending, I will not spoil it, but it's just like, no way. Maybe this was stopped by, I don't know.
By divine intervention, God.
Even now. Yeah, and to say, when I still go to Bal, if I say my last name is Nally, the cousin who was walking me around was just like, you have to be careful, because half the people think you're a revolutionary hero and that you've done all this great work for Gaelic games and for Irish culture, and the other half still see you as the landlord's thugs. So she's very twitchy and going, making sure I talk to the right people. And I felt like I had a bodyguard kind of still walking around there. So memories are long in the wild country. The oral blood of the Celtic people does not forget. It just does not forget. And we live and breathe stories. So these things can have a half-life of hundreds of years. Like I'm still got this guy's horse in his front yard. It's incredible to revisit this. Yeah. So the story of this continues. I would love to do a further adaptation, maybe write a play about the play and my relation to finding my uncle and going to the centenary. As a playwright myself, trying to get my work on and him trying to get his work on, and how my diaries and his diaries are very similar, and my exploration of magics and mythology. And I would like to write more and maybe add some music to this and just get it fully cleanly staged on its feet for once and for all. Would be amazing. Amy's asking, how did refinding this play impact your wider family in relation to knowing your uncle? That's great. And do you have a deeper connection to him? Have you learned anything new? Oh man, that's lovely. Yeah, well, I think my family are here. I know my Auntie Deirdre and Uncle Rick helped us read one of the plays out loud. Deirdre, do you want to say Fin Varama, how you felt about that? Discovering the play?
It felt very special, to have that connection to the Nally family from those times. It does really, bring it full circle. So I'm very pleased to be listening to the performance today. Thought the ladies did a fantastic job, very intense. And yeah, we did enjoy our little bit of reading of Fin Varamar, and we'd like to see some more of that. So this is just the beginning of something wonderful. So thank you, Aoife.
Thank you. I mean, and my parents flew over to see you guys in Wilton's, didn't they? They surprised us because we didn't.
Lovely. It was a beautiful surprise.
And some of my cousins came over as well. So I think it's very healing for the family. I think Thomas, I should tell you, he was deep into revolutionary activities. He was often the host of early IRA meetings when it was an army, not when it was the terrorist sort of section of that. So he was hosting a lot of subversive activities in his home, and all his writing was pretty pokey, as we say. So he was sent for his own protection after the Civil War to New Zealand, and he became a civil servant in Wellington. And I don't really believe he wanted to go. His diaries are pretty, melancholy, I think, over there. But it did save his life to go for a while, and he worked his way back to die in 1933. So he didn't live too long after. Well, he had some time in New Zealand. I just think the irony of him being transported after he's writing about so many transportations. But his ship's diaries are heartbreaking and funny and ingenious. And he worked his way back to Ireland by coming for a Pope's visit or a Eucharist conference. He chartered a ship for all the nuns and priests in New Zealand, and basically stowed away on board to get home to Ireland to die. So he's a fascinating character, and I feel very close to him. I feel there's a lot of love and admiration there. When I read his diaries, I feel like we would have gotten along so famously. He's got a restless mind like mine, and curious about every single thing, has a finger in 10 different pies at once. And I was like, I would really love to have met him. So I'll keep talking about his work as long as I'm going through these thousands of pages. There's so much to come, and the diaries are charming. And he's a really lovable man. I think a very quiet man, but I think people had a soft spot for him. He's very soft-spoken but wildly intelligent. So
Thank you.
yeah.
So we've gone a wee bit over, and I know I know we could talk about this for a while. Definitely the Nallys could. Jeez, we could talk the legs off a table. But yeah, you're welcome to contact us if you'd like more information. And we're going to post this up on our YouTube later. And you're welcome to watch it again, because I'm sure I missed a few things myself the first time around. I'd love to watch it a few times. So thank you very much, Nora and Evelyn, for joining us all the way across the waves. Thank you, Aoife, for staying here for the next festival for a whole year. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We'll see you again.
Thank you all. Thank you all. What a joy.
Thank you very much.
Have a good festival. See lots of things. Thank you, Sue. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Sue. Thanks very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.